honestly, being on that stage, having the partner that I had, the support that I had, the love from the other contestants.
Yes,
It
such
was
a loving
one of the
environment.
best experiences of my life.
Yes.
Oh.
I was the happiest doing that show. And it just took me out of a dark place, and I feel like it revived me.
Not only being a mother, being this reality star, you were also a dancer. You tore it up on this Dancing with the Stars.
Thank you.
You did so well. Did you feel out of your element, though?
You know, it's really interesting. At first I did, for sure, because they were all pros, you know,
Yeah.
and a lot of the contestants, the celebrities, they had pro experience. And I was just this girl from Detroit who took, you know, free classes at the community center.
Yes, girl.
So when I got the call to do the show, I was so elated, and it came right on time because I was so down on myself and going through a divorce, COVID, just trying to figure out how to be a single mom, how to take care of my business. And when I got the call, honestly, being on that stage, having the partner that I had, the support that I had, the love from the other contestants.
Yes,
It
such
was
a loving
one of the
environment.
best experiences of my life.
Yes.
Oh.
I was the happiest doing that show. And it just took me out of a dark place, and I feel like it revived me.
It did,
really
and it
did.
made us see you in a different light.
And I felt free. I felt like this is who I am. I'm just gonna take off all the layers and let people see who I am. And it was just liberating. It just felt so good being there.
You seem very emotional. What's
I
going
am,
on?
you know, don't do that. Don't make me cry.
No, what is going on?
It was just a great experience. You know, it just took me, you know, out of this really dark place, and it just made me feel alive again, you know, like valuable again, you know, where people can see me because I wasn't seen in my marriage. And I had this wonderful partner who just made me feel great to just be there every day, you know? And it was amazing. Lonnie, you always make me cry. Stop
I'm sorry.
that.
No, but that's something you really should give space and hold what you earn, hold that moment that you felt, because you deserve that. And with your life, I'm sure, it's so busy that you don't get to just sit and cherish a moment that you really deserve.
And you're always the strong one, Kenya.
Yeah.
And you know, I tell you this all the time.
You are
it's
always
okay.
great to me.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
All right. You from Detroit. We don't.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
We always make it, but it's okay to be vulnerable. You're okay. All right.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
I felt it on the show. It revived me. It just, you know, made me feel beautiful again, made me feel valuable again. And I would not change it for anything in the world.
Now, we all have our ups and downs, but sometimes it really can feel like the entire world is against you. Your job isn't going well, your family's falling apart, and your friends are just nowhere to be found. So I'm curious, ladies, have you ever felt like just the whole world was against you? And if so, how did you deal with that? Like, how did you deal with that feeling?
I definitely have to say that I've been there, and I have been to the lowest places. Meaning, and the reason why I say that is because I think about what's been happening to a lot of people lately in the last couple of years. It seems like people have just really gotten to a place where it just feels like everything is against you, and a lot of people have been giving up. And for me, I was at that moment at a young age. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but when I was in middle school, I thought about taking my own life.
No.
Yeah, I don't really like talking about it because it's like very emotional for me. But I'm only saying this because I know a lot of people are dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
But I was feeling like that. I really wanted to go through the motions. My mother at the time, she had a gun, and you know how you're a kid, you go through that stuff, so I knew where she kept it, and I had plans to use it. But whatever reason, God made her put it somewhere else because it wasn't where she normally kept it. I didn't even talk to my mom about this, really.
Oh.
But the point of this, of me saying it is, if I had done that at that time, think of all the wonderful things that I would have missed out on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I always like to tell people,
You got tissue?
it can't rain forever.
Yes, yes.
The sun is gonna shine again, and sometimes it's gonna shine so bright on you when it does.
Yes.
Things that you would never expect. Like, I had many, many blessings to come later after that moment that, you know, now that I'm older, I look at myself and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Kandi,
You know?
Thank you for sharing that. Thank
What?
you for sharing that.
what
Wow.
at that time, because this helps when we share like this.
Yeah.
What were you going through at that time that made the world like seem like it was against you?
Well, and this is the thing, because I was super young, everything seems so much worse to a young person. So I had
Seems
an
like
older
a bigger deal.
Right. My older brother at that time in middle school, he went away to college, so it was just me in the house, me and my mom. My mom had went through some health issues and she had this major surgery. And so everything that I was doing at the time, and mind you, I was doing the most. It was to the point where, you know, she just didn't know how to deal with me. And so she was like, oh, I'm gonna make you go stay with your dad, or I'm gonna make you in it. Every time I would mess up, I'd be like, oh, like everything just seemed to be wrong.
Yeah.
You know, school was wrong. The things I was doing was wrong. You know, I just wasn't doing the right things. I didn't find my thing until like later on, until I got to high school. In middle school, I was just acting up. And I just wasn't in the right mind space.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I see young people saying that, you know, I love hearing young people saying they want to work on their mental health.
Yeah.
Because although, you know, we're old school and we're like, what are they talking about? But it is important, because when I was young, I was in that bad space, and it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now I see in these last couple of years, it's a real thing for lots of people of all ages. So
And people you wouldn't expect.
people that you wouldn't expect. So
Right.
people always look at me and they're like, oh, everything happens right for you.
Yeah.
And no, it doesn't.
Right.
But back then, for whatever reason, I really felt like I just can't do anything right.
Yeah.
You get what
And
I'm
when you
saying?
couldn't
Yeah.
find the gun, thank God,
Praise God.
what happened when you couldn't find it? Did you leave?
No, I actually talked to some of my friends, my childhood friends, on the phone, and you know, of course, they were telling me, "Oh, don't do that. You know, you
Right.
have so many great things to look forward to," and you know, I guess just listening to them, feeling better. Then you know, the next day, things do get a little better.
Yeah.
Actually, things got worse for me before they got better. I lost my brother like when I was in the 9th grade, but. Sometimes you go through a rainy season.
Yes,
and that
right.
rainy season can just feel like it's never going to end.
Sure.
But it does.
See,
It
this
does,
is
and
why,
that's what people need to
Yes.
hear.
and we
It
always
does.
tell
It's
people,
all a season.
take a beat.
Yeah.
What happened was God gave you a beat. Like you were looking for it,
Yes.
you couldn't find it. And that allowed you to get a little space and a little focus. And that's why we make the suicide hotline. That's why we have
Talk to
different types of hotlines, because sometimes if you just talk to somebody, that can help you change your focus just a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I am so happy
We're
that
all
that
happy
happened.
about that.
Thank you.
Because could you imagine, we wouldn't have no escape. We wouldn't have you. We wouldn't have
mean, your
Riley.
beautiful
We
children.
wouldn't have
Your
all
Think about my kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yes.
about
I
your
think,
kids.
and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's all these different things that I think about now. Even to be able to be there for my mom after my brother passed, I was like, how terrible that would have been to have lost one child and then lose another.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, I don't want to get all emotional, but the point is, I know what you're saying when you say sometimes you feel the world is against you. So many of us have felt that way. But it doesn't have to stay that way.
That's right.
And that's just what I want.
And you
right.
got to remember,
That's
this
right.
was
That's
before there was social
Social media.
media.
Yeah.
And now
So
today,
imagine.
Right.
we have social media, and I feel for our children especially
This next generation.
because they're reading comments.
Yes.
Some
Right.
of them are by themselves.
Yes.
You know, can you imagine you taking a beat and then you go and then somebody says something
really
bad?
mean.
Yeah.
It
Because
takes you
imagine
over the
feeling
edge.
like you have the whole world against you and
Right.
you actually have access to the whole world on social
Right.
media.
Right.
Well, that's why it's important. I'm glad you talked to your friends to reach out to anyone. You know, whether it's an aunt, whether it's a neighbor, tell somebody what you're
Anyone.
going through so that you can come out of it. And I think you are the prime example of it doesn't stay bad because you are shining, you are bright, you have this amazing family. And we're so happy you didn't do what you wanted to do.
I'm so happy that I didn't either, because when I look at my kids, I'm like, you know what? to everything that you went through when you were younger, it was nothing because this is so worth it.
Yeah.
Just getting through it. That's why I always tell people, push through.
Push through.
Push through. Take
through.
a beat.
through.
Take
Yeah.
a beat
So
and push
good.
through.
This
Thank
is gonna
you.
change someone's
Yeah.
life. This is gonna make somebody wanna not do things that they are thinking of doing. Thank you for sharing this.
I came across this Instagram post from @RealTalkKim that states, "The disrespect is all the closure you need. The amount of amens in the comments let me know people really agree with her." So ladies, is it fair to put the burden of your need for closure on another person? Should their actions just be enough?
Oh, I want closure. I want closure.
You always
I do.
want everybody wants
I do.
closure,
I think so, right?
Yeah, but you don't
feel-
always get it.
You don't always get it. And even sometimes when you do get it, you may realize, did I really need it? I could have done it on my own. I could have put, boundaries up.
Yeah, I think closure's an interesting word and an interesting thing. I think you've got to find closure within yourself.
Right.
I don't think you can really ever expect it from someone. It's nice if you get it, but it's got to come from you.
But you know what?
really.
You ladies work on a show where I feel like there's shade, there's disrespect. Do you guys,
Yeah.
how do you move on? Do you necessarily get closure or do you just move on?
You've been on the show longer, and you've said to me and all the other ladies, like, what you've gone through to come back to build friendships. So
Yes.
how do you do that? Because that's what I struggle with.
Right, I know, and I've gone through it now. I'm in my 8th season, so I've had a lot of moving on.
Yeah.
Now, there have been times where it's been closure, and I'll tell you why I feel like it's closure, because we actually move on. After a really traumatic experience,
Yeah.
situation, feelings really, really hurt, if you can move on from that and build a friendship from it, that to me is a certain amount of closure, I think.
Okay.
We've completely moved on from
Wow.
it. And that has happened to me, well, especially with Dorit. I can say that,
Right.
that was really tough. But I try to do that. I try to do that in my life.
But did you have a conversation with her
Yeah.
to move it on?
Yes, you have to have a
have to.
conversation with the person in order to move on. And it has to be a joint, you both have to want to move on.
Right.
And it has to be organic, because if the other person doesn't want to move on, or if you're not ready, or if it's not organically possible, for us, I think
Yeah, we had a tough bump in the road.
we have had a tough bump
Yeah.
in the road, but I feel like we're finally able to
Yeah,
organically
agreed.
move
What was
forward.
going on with y'all two? 'Cause I seen
just
something in
stuff,
the
just
news.
stuff.
You know, it's
girl
just-
stuff.
We're talking about Paris. She was in the headlines recently for speaking out about the abuse that she suffered
Yes.
at a boarding school in Utah. How did it make you feel, Kathy, when you found out about this?
Who would have ever known? We did, our Paris was at many schools before that. Look, we don't have time to tell our whole story because it would go on. We'd be sitting here till Christmas.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's not just about ditching school and doing this. Rick and I wanted to save our child.
Yes.
And moving to New York City, I can tell you right now, and just being out on the street and going off and being gone maybe for 2 or 3 days, it's very scary.
Sure.
An attractive young girl, people handing cards, being in these nightclubs, it was more than we could handle. I wasn't getting any sleep. I was so scared. I was really scared.
course.
And she would run from every school that we sent her to. Oh, she escaped.
Wow.
She would escape. So we ended up going and getting a placement counselor, which they have wonderful people in New York for private schools, for behavioral schools. And the top person that's recommended.
Right.
And we went and visited the school. I know several other parents that were going to be sending their child there too. I find out after the fact.
Yeah.
It's funny how we all keep things a secret
Yes.
because
true.
we're ashamed.
That's true.
But she made it through.
She
and
made
you
it through,
helped
and now
her.
she's helping other young girls, which is amazing. I love that she's using her platform for that. It's beautiful.
It is so beautiful. When
Yeah.
I was standing there in Washington on Capitol Hill and watching her in front of all of these congressmen and all of these senators and all of these cameras in her face, and knowing that she is bawling and crying underneath, and I could see her lip just quivering, and as well as me listening to it and standing there too, just sick to my stomach. But yet I was so proud. I thought, my God, I just wish that my mother, my grandmother, my father, like the people that aren't with us right now that could be here.
Could see how strong she is.
The pride, and just, it's, you know, she says it's almost worth all the hardship and the misery to be able to see what I'm able to do right now.
The power that she has to change.
That's amazing.
I think it's helping the healing process.
Good.
Good for her.
Good, that's
and
amazing.
Good for you.
Yeah, and turning it
But
around.
I gotta tell you, the whole thing again put me into depression. Up until yesterday, I started, when I got back from Washington.
I understand. That's your baby.
Yeah.
That's your baby, Kathy.
Yeah, and as parents, we go through so much. I totally,
It's okay because she made it through,
Yeah,
Kathy.
she made it
through, and
through.
she's helping people. Give me some tissue.
You should be very proud of her. Very, very proud of her. She's turning it around. She could have just kept it to herself.
She could have, and she's
Yeah.
helping people.
Yeah.
Our next guest has been in all of our thoughts and prayers as her husband, Greg, and my friend, Greg, sadly passed away after a brave 4-year battle with colon cancer. Please welcome our friend, Nene Leakes. Hi, Nene.
Hi, Lonnie. How are you?
Hi. You know, Nene,
Hi.
we are so sorry for your loss. How are you and your son doing?
Thank you first. My son and I, we are doing well. We've had a lot of highs and lows, but we're doing well. We have a really good circle of friends and support that have really been here for us and lifting us up during this time. So we've been well.
Well, you look good. I'll tell you that's one thing. You look fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
So beautiful.
You guys look great too. Thank you.
Nene, can you tell me, if you can, what were those final days with Greg like?
My final days with Greg were beautiful and emotional. Greg and I had already gotten the news that he was going to pass. And the first thing Greg wanted to do was to let it kind of sink into him. He wanted to be able to accept it before he was able to talk to his children. And once he was able to accept that this was happening, he wanted to make peace with it, I think is a better word. And then he wanted to share the news with his children. So once he made peace with it, which took him a few weeks, to really pray on it and make peace with it, then we started calling the children. Brent was the last child that we told. We told all of Greg's children from his first marriage first. And Brent is the youngest, and obviously Brent lived in the house with Greg and I. So we really had to think about how to tell Brent, and Greg wanted to share that with Brent by himself, and he did. So things like that made it very emotional, just seeing Greg talk to Brent and tell Brent the things that he wanted him to do as a man and how he wanted him to move as an entrepreneur, and it was emotional. Wow. But Greg being the class act that he always is, He was beautiful. His skin was amazing. He wasn't in any pain. He talked the whole time. It was very beautiful and emotional.
Well, I loved Greg. I just want to say that, and
yes,
I know
he loved
know.
you too. You was his crush.
And I knew it. I loved him. I have to say, I heard that you found an envelope that Greg had to say what he wanted to, what he wanted everybody else to do. Can you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, so Greg and I was in his office just like a couple of weeks before he passed. He was Zoom with his doctors, and he was looking for something that his doctor needed. And we were just tearing up his office trying to find the paperwork. And I looked on the wall, and there was something taped on the wall. And I said, maybe this is it. He said, no, that's not it. That's something in case something happens to me, a letter in case something happens to me. And when he said it, he kind of said it really quick and threw it away like, didn't want me to catch it, but I caught it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go back in that office whenever I get Greg out of the office.
Yeah.
So once I was able to get Greg out of the office, I went back and it was taped on the wall that said, do not open unless something happens to me. So I opened it. And it was written to Brent. And I was just really like going crazy, like it's written to Brent. What is he about to say in the letter? So in the letter, he was just really directing Brent things that he wanted Brent to do. And he was actually in the letter helping me. Like, Brent, you go and do this, and then you give it to your mom. Or after you do this, tell your mom.
Wow.
He was taking a lot of pressure off me, which made me really emotional to read it. It just really showed to me, reading the letter, how loving Greg was and just a class act that he was.
Greg was all about the business. I mean, we toured with Greg. Greg would handle everything for us on the tour, the Ladies' Night Out tour. It was like, it's nothing like Greg. He would handle business, so I am not surprised that he left that envelope. And you know,
and let me tell you, he did everything for us on that show, and he did it for nothing. Like, he did it because he just wanted to do it. It was just the goodness of his heart.
Yeah. That's just the type of man that he was. And you had this wonderful celebration of life for Greg at your lounge in Lenithia. And from the pictures, Nene, the videos on social media, it looked so beautiful, it was so moving. Tell us about the service.
It was so beautiful. So one of the things Greg and I would do on Sunday in our house is play gospel music from like everybody. Like, we blasted music on Sunday. And he loved Yolanda Adams. So we had talked about, Greg had told me long before that he did not want to be buried. He wanted to be cremated. He would love to have a beautiful repast of some sort. But his whole thing was always, I don't know why, but he would always say, I don't want people looking at me. I don't know why he would say that, because he looked really good in the end.
Yeah.
But he didn't want people looking at him. So we did the cremation with just the family. And then we had a repast for everybody. It was beautiful. He wanted a celebration of life. And we really did that. We had big voices like Yolanda Adams, Kiki Wyatt, Leandria, Tamar Braxton, Kim Burrell. They all just sang their hearts out for Greg. It was really nice. We had Jamal Bryant, give the words. It was really nice.
Wow. That's really beautiful that you could send him out that way.